Okay. My name is David Scaffer-Gottschalk. Um, I am I have a doctorate, a performance doctorate, DMA, and I am a professor, full professor of music here at Virginia State University. In that capacity, I teach uh, applied piano majors and minors. I also teach two second-year music theory classes, second-year piano classes, and other courses as needed, some for the piano performance majors and other courses. I've taught fundamentals at times and other courses as needed in the department. I also do a lot of piano accompanying for students and for faculty colleagues, and perform um, as a professional performer as well, a classical pianist.
Okay. What inspired you to play the piano?
Um, Love of music initially. I mean, I began when I was 7 years old, and I just caught on with it, and I enjoyed it, and I really loved classical music, um, and it became something that I did well and felt good about doing, and then it became my passion.
Are there any pianists that inspired you that you look
Oh,
up to?
many, yeah. But if you're asking for favorites,
Yeah.
I don't know. I suppose over the years, a couple of my favorites, so they're kind of old timers at this point. Sviatoslav Richter. Um, Certainly, when I became acquainted with the work of the young Romanian pianist Dinu Lipati from many years ago, who died very young from leukemia, his work is particularly profound. Um, Other, well-known pianists have influenced me in one way or the other, um, such as Artur Rubinstein, Vladimir Horowitz. So those would be some names, but not one in particular.
Okay. Do you come from a musical background?
I come from a musical family, not of professional musicians, but my father was a trumpet player, and my mother was a singer, um, amateur. But but yes, I came from a musical family and a family that appreciated and fostered the study of music.
Do you ever play with any jazz bands or work with any jazz players?
Nope, never
No?
have.
Do you like
Nope.
jazz?
I like listening to some of it. I like listening to. I find that some jazz for me mm, starts to sound alike. So I
Really?
like listening to creative interpretations in jazz,
Okay.
and but when it starts to just be sometimes I think jazz players, many of them, particularly if they've been schooled through university jazz programs, and maybe I'm betraying a little bit of my age here. When jazz artists used to come up through and they learned their crafts basically by doing it and not studying it. Um, I think there was a freshness to what the individual artists did, and I think some of that has sort of become standardized. A lot of what also has happened in classical music. I mean, classical music over the
Mhm.
years has also become more standardized. Everyone plays the same pieces the same ways, and that's unfortunate. And that's kind of, I think, partly because we study it, and when you study it, you kind of get the standard way of learning it. And I think that is unfortunately, I think, maybe happening in jazz as it has happened in classical music.
Interesting. Um, do you think that jazz has any effect on today's music?
Profound effect on all styles. Um, we're in a period musically in the early part of the 21st century, the last, say, third of the 20th century and the early part of the 21st century, in which there's an awful lot of influence among various musical styles and genres, um, and they all are drawing from one another, and I think that's really exciting. if we allow that and appreciate that, I think we're going to find a great deal of excitement. But there's an awful lot of jazz influence now in contemporary classical music composition. There's an awful lot of influence the other way as well, among jazz musicians as well. There's influence in rock from rock music and from other styles of music as well into all other forms of music. So I think there's just an awful lot of interaction going on, and I think that's really great.
Any other things you want to add about jazz or its reference to classical music, possibly?
Oh, I don't know. I think I've said what I need to say about it. I mean, I am not a jazz player. I am not even, you would probably wouldn't even call me a jazz fan.
But it's always nice to get it jazz from a different point of view as well.
Well, yes, and I have known and have been enriched by my associations with wonderful jazz artists over the years, and I believe that any art form, any genre of music, has its artistry, and I don't think any style of music can say ours is a higher form of music than any other. And so I think there are great artists in all styles, and I think there's junk in all styles. and I think we can't say that one kind of music is a better kind of music than any other. So I think that applies to classical music. I mean, that applies to jazz, it applies to rock, it applies to rap, it applies to gospel, it applies to any kind of music you want to say. You're going to have your great artists, and they're going to rise to the top, and they need to be acknowledged and appreciated for their greatness.
Okay, well, I appreciate you for your time.
You're very welcome.